Celebrate number 22 being retired forever. You're watching Iowa's News Now Sports 22 and beyond.
The college basketball world focuses once again on Carver-Hawkeye Arena in Iowa City. A new banner ready to roll down from the rafters. And on a day where Caitlyn Clark is honored for her legendary career in black and gold, it's another woman looking to make her own impact on the game at large, bringing her team to Iowa City. Juju Watkins and fourth-ranked USC visiting Iowa in one of these new Big Ten battles we are still getting used to as we continue to get used to the legacy of Caitlyn Clark. Welcome to 22 and Beyond, an Eye on the Hawks pregame special. I'm Mitch Fick. We bring in Owen Sebring, and there will be talk about the Hawkeyes and Trojans. This is a pregame special after all, Owen, but Sunday, once again, it's Caitlyn Clark's stage at Carver.
Yes, and my assignment to start this special, give the viewers a quick recap of the college records that now belong to Caitlyn Clark. I won't lie to you, the list is lengthy, so just to help put some constraints around this rundown, we're going to put 2 minutes and 22 seconds on the clock, and in honor of 22 getting raised to the rafters, we'll run through the 22 most awe-inspiring records that we saw crumble at the feet of Caitlyn Clark during her 4-year career at Iowa. And let's start from day one. This is Caitlyn's very first collegiate basket for the Hawkeyes, and there were a lot more to come. She shattered Iowa's program records for points, assists, field goals, and three-pointers, but her sights were not merely on program records. She rewrote the Big Ten record book. Games in double figures, the fewest games to reach 1,000 career points. She set the league mark with 17 career triple-doubles, and not only does she hold the career assist record, she has over 200 more assists than any other player in conference history. And yet, Caitlyn's records still reach a higher plane. The first player in college history with 3,000 career points and 1,000 assists. Three-pointers, obviously. From her hand to the hoop, nobody with more career field goals than Caitlyn. Her senior season, 39 games played, 1,234 points, over 100 points more than anybody else. February 15, 2024, she broke Kelsey Plum's career scoring record, and just 2.5 weeks later, broke a record that some thought would never fall, eclipsing Pete Maravich's 54-year-old record for the most points ever scored, man or woman, in NCAA history. But even that doesn't tell the full story, does it? She sold out or set attendance records every game that she played as a senior. The crossover at Kinnick set the record for the largest crowd ever to watch a women's basketball game. Tens of millions of viewers watching from home as she helped shatter television ratings records in the postseason. And can we throw in some WNBA records? First rookie ever with a triple-double. In year one, she broke the league record for assists in a season. 4 teams had to move their games against the Fever to a larger venue to accommodate the amount of fans who wanted to see her in person. At the end of 2024, Forbes named Caitlyn Clark one of the 100 most powerful women in the world. How could she do all of this without setting the standard that matters more than any other? Caitlyn Clark, for now and forever, has changed the game. From WNBA courts now to a court near you and probably your children. This past week, Nike CEO Elliott Hill confirmed Caitlyn Clark is working on her signature shoe that's going to launch at some point. A launch date has not been confirmed, but the multi-billion-dollar company says they are working on designing her logo. Last April, Clark signed an 8-year, $28 million contract with the shoe company. But among all the records, shoe deals, everything else she's accomplished, no single moment stands out more than the one that happened at Carver-Hawkeye Arena last February in an unforgettable night against Michigan. Rebecca Kopelman is reliving that night through some of the eyes that were there to witness history.
It was the swish heard round the state. The record-breaking Logo 3 made by Clark right in this spot. That bucket that captured audiences across the country, now cemented in history here at Carver and in the memories of Hawkeye fans who were here to witness it.
Everyone was kind of like on the edge of their seats waiting for it to happen.
You could tell it was going to happen when it happened.
She was not going to miss. You knew she wasn't going to miss.
Caitlyn Clark is known for her Logo 3s, but the one on February 15th, 2024 was different. That logo 3 put her in the record books as the NCAA Division I women's basketball leading scorer.
You all knew I was going to shoot a logo 3 for the record. Come on now.
One lifelong Hawkeye fan, Dave Gallagher, got a front row seat to the historic moment.
I am the PA announcer for Iowa Hawkeye women's basketball for the last 23 years.
He was also one of the lucky few who got to watch Clark her freshman year.
So it was cutouts of dogs and cats and a few parents. And then, me yelling in the microphone.
And Gallagher says in those early moments, he knew breaking this record was never a long shot.
He said, she could become the all-time leading scorer if she keeps these kind of numbers up.
And just a few years later, he got to announce the record-breaking bucket to a packed Carver-Hawkeye Arena.
And I said, you know what? When she hits it, I'm going to give her her moment and let the crowd and the noise just be. And so I kind of paused and hesitated and then came up and said, she's now the all-time leading scorer.
And then once she shot it and it went in, everyone was like, it exploded in there.
Let's hear it one more time.
I couldn't hear myself think.
It was crazy loud. I mean, we've gotten loud in there before, but I think that topped all moments we've ever heard.
Allred has been going to Hawkeye games for 15 years, even buying tickets to the Nebraska game, anticipating the record would be broken there.
We bought those tickets before the season even started, so we were hoping to just see it and to be in the crowd for that was good too, but that moment of being there and seeing it and seeing her break that record was truly unbelievable.
Sisters Izzy and Loxton have been Hawkeye fans pretty much their whole lives. They've been going to Carver for 8 years and can't believe they got to witness history.
I'm just very thankful because it was a wonderful experience. Never see that happen. And it was pretty cool that we got to be there and we got to experience it.
A moment that no doubt sticks out to Clark too.
She wanted all of the entire team to be part of that moment and the whole arena to be part of that moment.
A moment from the logo that means so much more than 3 points.
Caitlyn Clark leaving a legacy off the court too. This month she celebrated her 23rd birthday by launching a national literacy program. The Caitlyn Clark Foundation is donating 22,000 books to under-resourced schools here in Iowa and where she calls home now in Indiana to improve literacy rates. She's also giving $22,000 grants to 4 Iowa charities: the UI Stead Family Children's Hospital, the Coralville Community Food Pantry, the Boys and Girls Club of the Corridor, and the East Central Branch of Special Olympics Iowa.
After the break, we head to the floor of Carver-Hawkeye Arena for a couple conversations with 2 women who had front row seats to the Caitlyn Clark experience. Lisa Bluder reflects and Beth Goetz looks to the future. It's all next on 22 and Beyond. .520 wins at Iowa, almost 900 as a head coach overall, 3-time Big Ten Coach of the Year, 2019 Naismith Coach of the Year, 2 Big Ten regular season crowns, 5 conference tourney titles, and 2 national championship game trips to wrap up a legendary career. Lisa Bluder did so much in her 24 seasons as a head Hawk, but really those last 2 seasons taking her and the whole Hawkeye women's basketball program to unparalleled heights. We caught back up at Carver earlier this week to reflect on that ride and look ahead of the perspective she's gotten after a few months of well-earned retirement. We're going to hang a banner up there on Sunday, and I mean, you could unfurl that thing and have the records on it and it'd probably go down to that baseline. Yeah. Is there anything about Caitlyn that still wows you? What's the wow factor for you, Caitlyn Clark? Because almost nobody knows her better than you probably.
Well, to me, I don't know if it's an oh wow moment. I get some oh wow moments when I see her on commercials. That's kind of weird to me. Or see her with Taylor Swift. Those are oh wow moments. Like that, yeah. But I guess the thing that impresses me the most is that she's still Caitlyn, that none of this has changed her. No records, no success, no whatever it is. It hasn't changed her. And she's still good old, goofy, fun Caitlyn.
10 years from now, I mean, we see how fast the world changes in 5 years, let alone 10, 20, whatever. I know you're asked to reflect all the time, but have you given any thought of what's going to be in there beyond just the banners hanging up there?
Yeah, I think it's much more than that. I think they are going to be known for changing the sport, for pushing the needle not only for women's basketball, but I feel like the notoriety that this team received the excitement that it created pushed the needle for women's sports, other women's sports too, not just for women's basketball. I look at now and I see the ice hockey league and the soccer leagues, how well they're doing. And it's, the Olympics, the women's Olympics, how well everybody is doing. I hope that we had some small part of getting the national attention pushed towards women's athletics. And I think that's what this group is going to get to know. And I also think this group will still be remembered for the crossover in Kinnick and having 55,646 people and breaking the record for attendance for women's basketball. And I think that'll stand for a little while.
Your best friend gets to take over your program, and it's got to be incredible to see. And what is your relationship like with your best friend, who's also now in charge of players you recruited, and your program that's got your fingerprints all over it? What is that day-to-day like with Jan? Because you guys are forever bound, but this is her team now, and I know you want to respect that this is your team, Jan, and build your way with a roster that maybe sometimes people in the moment forget is really going through a lot of different things this year.
Yeah, I sometimes people are so unrealistic, and that's what is amazing to me. I mean, people have to remember that, we lost 4 starters from last year's team and the world's best player. And so that's a lot, and we're a very inexperienced team. We're a young team, but we're inexperienced as well as young. And so, people just need to be patient. This is a great freshman class. We have a really good class coming in again next year. And, it used to be day-to-day with Jan, and it's not that anymore. It can't be that anymore. This is her program, and I want her to put her stamp on it. And do we talk about basketball? Absolutely. Do we talk about recruits? Absolutely. But it's not day-to-day anymore. And I do want to, be as much hands-off. I just want it to be hers.
Meanwhile, Beth Goetz just getting into her second year as full-time athletic director at the University of Iowa. She got the permanent gig late last January after a few months in the interim role. 3 months into the full-time job, she handled Bluder's retirement and promoted Jan Jensen to head coach. She is now in charge of overseeing a whole new era, not just for women's sports in Iowa City, but really across the country. The spotlight remains on the Iowa Hawkeye athletics programs at large. We also sat down at Carver last week to talk about making the most of that spotlight. We're still kind of basking in the afterglow of the Caitlyn Clark era and the end of the Lisa Bluder era. I know Lisa a couple days ago was talking to her, and she's still, how do you process being part of something that's beyond just Caitlyn shoots from far away and it goes in more often than not? Just reflect for a minute on being in the middle of a moment that is, the phrase we continued to use was changing the game and elevating not just this women's basketball program, but women's basketball at large and Hawkeye athletics. And just what was it like to be in that moment in year one as full-time athletic director?
I don't think there's any of us that would say you didn't appreciate it in real time, because you did and you understood. But I think as time passes, the magnitude of that gets bigger, just as you understand. Not only were you watching some history for the University of Iowa and certainly for Caitlyn, but the impact and the lasting impact it was going to have on growth. And so it's been so fun to think back about where you were when and really hear the stories retold from other people who maybe weren't as close to it as we were. But just the appreciation, the gratitude that you got to have a front row seat for that part of the ride is something that we're all going to take with us, indefinitely. Yeah,
and the seats still fill up here, even in this post-Caitlyn era, as Jan takes a shot at what she's called her dream job. But how do you logistically, strategically keep building that momentum as the spotlight is still shining so brightly on Hawkeye athletics and in Iowa City, to continue to show that this is a place that is not just a flash in the pan where one generational talent comes through, that this is still a place where women's basketball players, women's athletes can still come in here and thrive at large in Hawkeye athletics? Yeah, I think it's all about continuing to make sure it's visible at the highest level, and the gratitude we have to give to our fan base that allows us to make it visible when you're filling up this arena and others across all of our women's sports is, really gives you a step forward. But I think, in reality, we all have to recognize that there's, these moments aren't indefinite. And so you have to be really strategic and intentional about how to continue to build on those. And certainly you're excited about the next big play that happens right here on this court and the next big victory. But you have to find new ways to start to tell the story and embrace the challenge of living up to a legacy that's as big.
as the one that they created. And as Lisa Bluder, quotes Billie Jean King all the time, that pressure is a privilege. And I think embracing, wanting to be a part of one that tradition, but also proving that you can continue to sustain that is something that Coach has embraced, and all of our student athletes have, as well as our community.
You got a QR code right there for links to our full conversations with both Bluder and Goetz. Those are special Eye on the Hawks podcasts on the audio side, full video interviews on the Iowa's News Now YouTube channel. Next, women in. A group of new Hawkeyes who watched the Caitlyn Clark effect take full effect now put their own stamp on the Iowa program. How this group of freshmen are preparing for their time in the spotlight. That's next on 22 and Beyond.
There's no replacing a legend, and I would imagine none of this year's freshmen have their sights on breaking Caitlyn's scoring records. But as the fans at Carver adjust to life after Caitlyn, a new group of potential stars take center stage. In the absence of a legend, it's the freshmen who have stepped to the fore.
They're pushing the vets, and they're eager, and they're pretty talented.
Along with the talent, this Hawkeye freshman class has been the surprise of the season. 2 have played in every single game. 2 have started at least once. 4 players in this freshman class have combined to average 18 points a game for the Hawkeyes, already giving a glimpse at the future of this program.
A lot of this process has been about finding who we are as a player and balancing that with who we were as a player and who we're trying to be.
I think we all just came in really, really strong. We have great chemistry in this freshman class. I mean, I think we can be really special.
And still, the best might be yet to come. Next year, the Hawkeyes get Addie Deal added to the roster, one of the top 15 best recruits in the country, who also will look to make an impact from day one.
I mean, I definitely think there's expectations, and I mean, I'm totally on board. I mean, I want to go there. I want to be a major impact, from the beginning. So I'm not really nervous about it. I'm just super excited.
Addie's goals for college make it sound like she may already have her own sights set on hanging another jersey in the rafters.
I just really want to develop, get better. My goal is to play after college. So, I mean, I want to win Big Ten championships. I want to win national championships. I just want to do it all and get better as I do it.
Now, just this week, Addie Deal was named a McDonald's All-American. She's going to join Sam Logic and, of course, Caitlyn Clark as the only Hawkeye recruits who have ever been selected to play in the All-American game. From Caitlyn Clark to the next Big Ten phenom, Iowa now tries to stop USC's Juju Watkins. She can score the rock, but can she catch number 22? And it's all said and done. Her scoring pace through nearly 2 seasons. That's next on 22 and Beyond. USC Trojans travel to Carver-Hawkeye for only the 2nd time ever, the first time since 1994. Iowa leads the series 4-1, but this year the Trojans are ranked 4th in the country and have the nation's 3rd leading scorer in Juju Watkins. On Sunday, one of the greatest players in women's college basketball history will be in the same room as the game's next rising star. Patrick Smith breaks down how USC's scoring machine, Juju Watkins, compares to Clark at this point in her career and what it would take for her to challenge for the all-time scoring record.
Through 53 games, Watkins has scored 1,391 points. Compare that to Clark, who had 1,425 points through 53 games, just 34 more. But this is where Clark's scoring truly started to take off. In her junior and senior season, her scoring averages jumped to 27.8 and an incredible 31.6 points per game. Right now, Watkins is averaging 24.8 points per game, about 2 points behind Clark's pace during the same stage of her career.
But here's the kicker. USC's roster is packed with 4- and 5-star talent, meaning Watkins has more scoring help than Clark did during her time at Iowa. That could make it harder for Watkins to put up the same massive numbers we saw from Clark, who had the clear focal point of Iowa's offense. Still, Watkins is breaking records of her own, like the most points scored by a freshman last year, and she outpaced Clark through her first 47 games.
The bottom line, while Watkins is one of the most talented young stars in the game, she's not currently on pace to break Clark's scoring record. But as Clark showed, it's those final 2 seasons where superstars really separate themselves. And if Watkins can elevate her game the way Clark did, it's not impossible.
Safe to say Juju and USC feeling right at home in their first Big Ten season. Best in the league so far at 9-0 in conference games. Top-ranked UCLA 8-0. They visit Iowa City in 3 short weeks. Now, Iowa's won back-to-back games, but it's that 5-game skid that sent them into the bottom half of the Big Ten with 8 games remaining. Lots of chances to improve that tourney resume, though. They've got 6 games against Quad 1 teams, and even during that skid, Owen, they were in all those games. They almost pulled off the comeback against the top 10 Maryland team. The opportunity there on Sunday against the Trojans, too.
Yeah, and that team that went through the 5-game losing streak, that is still the same team that started the year 12-2. They were ranked in the top 25. That has to give hope to this team for what they can do in the month of February, beginning with USC, a team that's won 15 games in a row. This is a game that's going to be filled with emotion and energy, a full house like Carver hasn't seen since last year's NCAA tournament, and a night that this team will try to keep its emotions in check.
That was a little bit sometimes my concern about this, right? Because you just knew a lot of hype was, about, Caitlyn's jersey, and obviously USC's coming in, and it's a lot. I mean, it's just storyline after storyline, right? And what I've just told them is, what a moment. You get to be in this moment. I've just really tried to keep them in their lane, and I think they understand that. They know the task is tall on Sunday, but it's also a really fun opportunity.
Now, Iowa is a team on the bubble right now, but a win against USC, and that puts that team firmly back into the conversation as a team that could make some noise in the NCAA tournament.
They could definitely make some noise. We've seen it before, and we are going to see and hear a lot of noise at Carver on Sunday as Caitlyn Clark returns. That jersey unfurled from the rafters, all part of the legacy of Caitlyn Clark in Iowa City. Thank you for all of you for joining us here on 22 and Beyond. For Owen Sebring, I'm Mitch Fick.